welcome to another episode of Vision Quest. My name is Ashley Apap and I'm a writer and comedian from Melbourne, Australia. And this is my podcast. Welcome. If you are coming back, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate you returning. How's your week been? What have you been doing? Hope you've been drinking lots of water. Hope you've been getting some time outside or hibernating if you are a bear. So whatever suits you better, I hope you've been doing it. And if you're new here, welcome home. That's right. You've died. This is heaven. I'm kidding, obviously. Please don't be offended, anyone who is religious. This is my podcast where I talk to people that I enjoy about things that they enjoy. And I am very happy today to have my dear friend Jenni Townsend here. Welcome!
Hello! It's also just exciting to see you because I don't see you that often these days because we're so apart from each other in this world.
I know, but I'm here. I'm back. When would the last time I saw you would have maybe just been when I was home at the beginning of the year, probably.
Yeah, I reckon.
Yeah.
It could have even possibly, we are on a improv team together.
Yes.
That it could have possibly been the last show that we did as a team.
Yeah, shout out to Hairlane Salt Lamps. Yeah, maybe.
RIP for this year. Yeah,
R.I.P.
maybe. I don't know. Well, I was just going to say that it, like, the start of the year honestly feels like a different decade, like a different time period. I guess it almost was a different decade because it was close to 2019. But
yeah, that's true. If you, like, round it up, if it was like the Chinese New Year, then it was, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. So who can remember what the start of the year was?
Yeah,
we're in a different time. I was going to do a comedy festival show and then that died in its ass straight away.
Are you going to do next year or like bring it back? Or are you, because I've been wondering that so many people had to put their shows on hold. Are you going to like use that material and has it changed or are you kind of like, nah?
Well, it wasn't really time sensitive material. So I don't think it's not like, oh, it was only topical at the start of the year. I'm undecided whether I would do it for Comedy Festival next year, only because like I'm still so uncertain about where we'll be in March that I don't really feel comfortable deciding on that. But that said, I have thought about finding a different way, like a different home for it in a way.
I remember like right before I moved to LA, because you lived there for over a year, right? And you
yes, that's right.
Went to school.
And actually my comedy festival show was actually going to be talking about a lot of that stuff. Yeah.
Interesting.
It's going to be a lot about that time in my life.
Well, I remember right before I went, we like went on a walk or something. I just remember walking and it being night and you were like, so have you thought about like, you weren't being like, have you thought about not going? But you were just like, have you thought about all these aspects of going that maybe other people haven't brought up to you through my experience? And you kind of like told me some things and I was like, I literally never thought of any of this. Good to know, very helpful. And then when I was there and I was going through like hard shit and was like, all I could picture was like, Jenni was right. All the stuff that you were saying was like coming into my head. And a lot of it was about like being there versus being here in Melbourne. And now that I'm back and I'm feeling like very happy to be back and feeling like it's the right place and the right time and everything. It's like, oh, imagine, like I feel like now I'm you talking to me, but at my old, like, I feel like, whoa, I've transformed into you talking at me, like, whoa. But yeah.
Well, soon you're going to find somebody who is you're going to find somebody in your life who is my version of you that will be like, I'm moving to LA, I'm going to do the thing. And you can be like, okay, but also think about these things.
Yes.
Like you can pass on that knowledge. Now you've experienced it.
Exactly.
But also I don't want to sound like some old sage giving out down advice or anything.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't like I was just standing there and you were like, let me tell you how to live. It was like,
don't you do it.
Yeah, exactly. You were like, oh, I lived in LA and I didn't know at that point. And then I was like, oh, do you have literally tell me anything, be harsh, tell me whatever you need to tell me. And you were very helpful and like honest. And it was useful to have that perspective because I think like, obviously moving to another country is going to be difficult and there's all these things that are hard. But there were just like little things that I wouldn't have even known what to think if not for that conversation. So I thank you.
Well, it's absolutely my pleasure to be the guiding light for you.
And now everyone else, if you do need any psychic readings, any just general life advice, Jenni is available.
Just be warned that I will be smoking darts at the time and going, God, let me tell you how it is. Just like chain smoking.
You've got like cigarettes in between these fingers. In between these fingers, you've got like...
I've got one somehow resting in the crock of my, like, right here. It's balanced, though. That's how you know that I'm a true psychic. Because somehow I've balanced that. But honestly, like... Because I had quite a wake-up call year when I was in LA. So I feel like for me, like it was just obviously... And we had another friend as well that was sort of moving overseas, I think, sort of shortly after you maybe. I can't remember. But I remember being like, all these little kids chasing their dreams. I love it. But also be careful because I had some... Yeah, but you killed it over there for a little while. Like,
oh, thanks.
You did way better than I did.
No, oh my God, not at all. I would think like it truly is all just luck, which is so scary and sad that it's all luck. But when you were there was literally the worst time to try and be right. You were there during like the writer's strike, weren't you?
Yeah. Well, it was like right after. It was the way it was like three major things. The writer's strike had just wrapped up. It was the global financial crisis.
Ooh, love that.
You know, that little thing. And then there was like, this will only mean something to people who care about the film industry, but the oldest agency in the world, which is William Morris Agency, and the youngest but biggest agency, or like the hot new thing, Endeavour, were merging together in the year that I was there. So it was just like, I mean, now I'm making it a sub-story about my sad year in LA, but it was like, there were just no jobs because either it was a global financial crisis or, you know, there were no agency jobs. And most of the time when you're over there, you get the shit-kicking jobs at the start, right? So, and I was an unpaid intern, and now at least they start to pay interns in LA, I think.
I think so.
If you're lucky.
But you know what? Enough about that because we're here.
We're in the best city in the world.
Most livable city in the world, voted however many years in a row, except for I think last year it finally got kicked down to second.
To go back to like the you know, Australians moving overseas thing, at the moment we are in a very good place in a pandemic world, which is amazing. The fact that we can have like I had a work Christmas party. The fact that I can have a work Christmas party is like insane to me.
Yeah, me too.
A few months ago, it was not on the cards at all. So like, it is kind of nice to be like, being here is the right place for us to be right now. We are still able to be creative, and we're in a digital world now. So what I'm trying to say, Ash, is you and me, let's kickstart the Australian, like, the wave of Australian content into the world.
It's going to happen. You heard it here first.
That's right.
A merger, as they say.
Yes.
A collab.
Forget Hollywood. Just think about Jeshley Wood.
Yep. Coming soon. Before we get into the questions, because I just realized we've been just really bantering it up, which I love. I'm so into it. But can you just let anyone out there watching and or listening to this know who you are and what you do? Because I did not do that.
Well, yeah, I guess I'm a Melbourne-based comedian and filmmaker. Film is sort of my background, and that's what I love to do, but I definitely have a taste for comedy. So you and I met doing improv, so I do a lot of improv stuff. And I'm also challenging myself this year to try and make a lot of sketches. So I'm moving into sketch comedy this year.
And they're very funny. On Jenni's Instagram, she's been doing these like short enough sketches that they come up and you can watch the whole thing. This is maybe a niche thing to say, but I hate when you try to watch a video and you have to click on it. Just being able to watch it without clicking, you're really working with the algorithm there.
Or my ideas are so small that they can't last for more than a minute.
Okay, well, would you like to get into the questions?
Yes, please. Do you know what? I have to admit something to you, Ash, just before we get to the questions. I actually haven't listened to any of your podcasts because I didn't want the questions ruined for me. Like, specifically, I was like, I don't want them ruined, which sounds a bit like arrogant that I thought I would ever be on your podcast, but you did actually ask me at some stage.
Yeah, you were one of the first people I thought of. I was like, who would I feel the most like comfortable and know that we would just like be able to talk for so long that I wouldn't ever worry that we would not have enough time. And
that's very kind of you. That's very nice of you. But yes, so I actually haven't listened because I didn't want to know what you were going to ask. So okay. I'm excited. I'm ready.
All right. The first question is, what did you want to be when you grew up and why do you think that is?
Ooh. Actually, I mean, I feel like most kids, I went through a few phases. So when I was very young, I did like the idea of being a nurse because my mum was a nurse. But I quickly realized that was not for me. And then the most significant one, I think, was when I was sort of towards the end of like grade 4 to 6, I guess, starting to become my own human. I really wanted to be a zoologist. Like, I was crazy obsessed with big cats. And so I wanted to be a zoologist that studied, like, you know, tigers in the wild and jaguars in the wild and stuff like that. And why? I guess I've just always really loved animals, really. And I had that, did you ever have, maybe this is showing my age a bit, but did you ever have a wildlife fact file? It was like, so it was back in the day, back when, you know, you used to not have the internet at your fingertips, I guess, where there would be those magazine subscription things and you'd get something like every month. So you'd get like, I'm sure I saw all sorts of things like, you know, the train one where you'd get a new piece of the train at the end of the year, you get to assemble a train or whatever. Yeah. The wildlife fact file was you'd get like a little, it was like one of those folders, ring binders. So it was like you'd get a little file of a particular animal and you'd put it into your little ring binder. And I had like a crazy collection of wildlife fact files. I still do. They're at my sister's house. Sorry, Cindy. So I think based off of the wildlife fact files, I read so much about like big cats and stuff and animals and all this sort of stuff that I was like obsessed with it. So I thought, gosh, wouldn't it be great to go out into the wild and watch animals? And that was your whole job. But then I realized I sucked at science. So here we are doing comedy and film.
I had one of those exact same things, but it was Rugrats themed. And it was...
Rugrats fact file?
It was a Rugrats fact file, but each one was a different country and you had a little passport. And you'd get all this information about each country and like the cuisines that they had and like just cultural things in that country, and you would get a little stamp and you could put it in the passport and it was as if you had traveled to all the lands. So that was my version of that.
Awesome. That's really cool, actually.
It was very cool.
Also like, yeah. Well, I will never get rid of my wildlife fact files, I don't think, because they were so, like, and there's so much information in there. So much to learn.
And what if the internet does, you know, combust one day and we need to learn about big cats?
That's right. I can simply go to my sister's house and I can tell you everything you need to know about the ocelots in South America, if you need. I'll do that. Do you want me to do that right now? I'll just go.
You know what?
I'll just shut off.
Bye.
I got nothing else to do. I was also perfectly timed. Humble brag coming up. My dad did a lot of traveling when I was growing up, and one of the places he went to was South Africa, and it was right when I wanted to be a zoologist. So I went to South Africa and got to go see lions and crap in the safaris, and it was I was pretty much like my, how old was I? 8 years old. It was my 8-year-old brains like imploding, being like, this is the best. I held a baby lion cub.
Oh my God.
Can you imagine an 8-year-old that wants to be a zoologist doing that?
Yeah. You just crying or like...
I didn't know how the hell to hold a lion cub though. That was a bit... There's all these pictures of me holding these poor lion cubs that are like, because they do not want to be held the way that I'm holding them.
So the second question is, what's your favorite thing about yourself?
This question is an existential crisis in 4 words. How many was it? No, more than that. Oh no.
She's forgotten what numbers are.
Okay, this is gonna sound like probably the wankiest thing in the world, but I think I'm a very curious person. I'm super interested in many things, and I think that's probably one of my best qualities is that I really love learning. It does sound wanky when I say it like that. I just love to learn. I'm here in the school of life.
No, that's not wanky at all.
Well, yeah, I think that's the truth. There's so many things. I sometimes actually get a little bit overwhelmed by all the things that I don't know. Like, I sometimes think, it from the scale of like engineering, like, oh, I don't know how bridges are built, to down to like watching a stop motion animation or something, which I am like actually know a fair amount about it, but then like there's also so much of it that I just don't understand, have never learned, and will never have the time to learn probably, that I'm just like, oh, there's so much in this world I would love to know and I just will not know. And I will die before I know all of the things.
Does it make you feel like, I need to learn it now? Or does it make you feel like, I can't do anything about it? And like freak
I think
out?
I'm weirdly okay with it. It's just sort of like, it's more like a sense of wonder. I do get overwhelmed by it, but it is like a sense of wonder of like, there's just so much stuff in this world to know, and there's no way you can know all of it. And there's something kind of cool about that. Yeah. And also sort of like, I respect how there's like people who do know about that thing. So like using engineering as an example, which I know zero about, but being like, I don't understand why the bridge is like the wires, how the bridge wires work. But there's somebody in this world that figured that out, that knows how it works, like who can do the math to make sure that it's load bearing or whatever. It's kind of like a sense of wonder, I think.
Yeah, for
But then there's also stuff that nobody knows about, like the very depth of the ocean, and we'll never know, probably. Not in our lifetimes.
I think about that
outer space
all the time. Like, what creatures are under the ocean that we just will never find out about?
I could never get bored. I honestly feel like I find it very hard to get bored.
Which
sounds like a brag in 2020. Like, oh, you're bored in the pandemic? Well, I can't get bored. So.
I think like, and if we did know everything, what would be the point? We would all be like, all right, well.
Yeah, well, that's the, don't want to ruin the end of The Good Place, but I will make a reference to it. So the ending of that is a beautiful example of like, doesn't, Tahani like knows everything by the end. Like she's like accomplished everything that was on her list in like, down to like making the perfect woodwork.
Yeah.
Or whatever it was. Like the perfect chair.
For anyone out there who needs something wholesome and good to watch The Good Place. So the next question is, what's your favorite feeling? And so it can be physical or emotional.
For me personally, it probably would be that sort of like contentment or like just sort of like feeling love for another person. But that seems like the easy answer. So I'm going to go with...
No one said that so far.
Really?
No.
What?
No one said literally just love. But that's a great...
Just love. Well, no, yeah, because I mean, I think maybe it's because I've had a weekend of Christmas things. So, which, I mean, very much dating this episode of the podcast of when we recorded it. But like I said earlier, that sort of... being so grateful to be in Melbourne at the moment, but like So I saw my work friends, I saw my improv friends, I saw some like of my other friends. I saw friends. I've got lots of friends.
I'm Jenny and I have multiple groups of friends.
There is an element of just like, you know, when you look at somebody and you're like, I just feel so much care and love towards these people. Sometimes I like to see a movie that did not meet my expectations, and I love the feeling of anger you get towards that thing, that passionate like hate of something, because to me it reminds me that I'm alive and that I still care about movies, or I still care about TV shows and stuff. Because if I'm like, no, I fucking hate, like Tiger King, I think was the last one where I got super mad about it.
I didn't understand why everyone loved it.
Tiger King. Yeah, exactly. It was a piece of trash.
It was so bad.
But it reminded me that I still care about the art of filmmaking, and I was like, I'm alive. I still care because I fucking hated that so much.
I'm angry and alive.
So that's my secondary feeling that I like. I like getting angry about movies.
I like how opposite those two things are.
Yeah. One is just like zen contentment and love towards your fellow man, and the other one is being like, fucking do a better job.
The next question is, what's your happy place?
My gut reaction is finding something new and unexpected by exploring, which is very like vague and, you know, broad and encapsulates probably everything in the world. But I just think like some of my favorite memories are like traveling somewhere and we've gone to some place and then finding something that was totally unexpected but really beautiful, and like it I think when you're not expecting to find something but it really strikes a chord, it feels kind of transcendental. So that's my happy place, are those like, I think, unexpected moments maybe.
On days when I've like walked past a shop or like a restaurant or something that I've just walked past it and had no intention of going in, and then gone in and been like, whoa, those places usually become like staples in my life in that location. Because I'll be like, it's like a map where you're like, oh, that's that place where I like discovered that thing or whatever.
Thinking about it now, you know, just like those unexpected meetings of like random people or things like that, where, you know, I think it applies to that, those kind of weird moments that you don't expect, or finding something, like, which we'll talk about a little bit more later, but like finding some content or something just accidentally that really like you fall in love with, which, you know, probably doesn't happen too much anymore, but when we were mainly using television to find information, you know, you'd like stumble upon stuff on SBS or whatever and be like, this is amazing. And yeah, I think that kind of like unexpected discovery is really exciting for me. That's probably my happy place. But also it's led to like me finding some places, because the reason I said that is because I was thinking of a trip to Japan, and we were in this really small town, like way out west. We went to this small town, had like a castle and stuff, but it also had this like house that somebody had just, like a passion project house, like an architect had made it, sort of thing. And it was one of the most beautiful places I've ever been to in my entire life, and it was just gorgeous. A fun little side story about that town we were in, called Ozu. We were walking down the street and there's like no tourists at this place at the moment. And so we're a couple white people walking down this Japanese street, and this guy stops us and starts talking to us, and he has great English, and he's like maybe in his 80s or something, like pretty old. And in fact, he was like, I lived in that house my entire life. Like for 80 years, I've lived in that house. So it's not like he's like a, you know, Tokyo slicker or whatever. He's like, has lived in this small town his whole life, but speaks really good English. And then he found out that we were Australian, and he was like, oh, Julie Bishop, she's beautiful. I love her. What a great woman Julie Bishop is. And we were like,
what?
I'm sorry. I think it was around the time where she was like the foreign minister or whatever. I don't know enough about politics. And had recently gone to Japan for like, you know, a meeting or whatever. So he must have seen her on television or something, and he was just like, oh, this beautiful blonde lady, Julie Bishop. So he was talking to us about that. We were like, this is surreal.
Okay, so the next question is, what is your favorite song to cry to?
If it was like like being heartbroken in some way, I'd go for Frank Ocean. Bad Religion. Oh, that one's real good. Because he it's like Frank Ocean, but also like Frank Ocean is great heartbreak crying across the board. But Bad Religion is like him talking to a taxi driver about somebody he's in love with who'll never love him back. Like unrequited love. It's beautiful. It's really good. It's a great song. But if I wanted just like, oh, I'm depressed, I'd probably listen to Sigur Rós or Radiohead. So I feel like, yeah.
The next question is, who is someone you admire?
I have always said that my heroes are people that kind of, like, they have an idea that they think is fun and then they make it happen. So you know what, Ash, I admire you.
Oh, God.
Because you're doing something that you think is fun and you're doing it. But,
Thank you.
but that's true. That is a true fact. But I always say Trey Parker because he's the creator of South Park and then like because also he has like a film background but has a comedy bent, and like he's the kind of guy, from what I can tell, is like, wouldn't it be funny if we made a Kick-Ass America team but they were all marionette puppets and then make that into a very profitable movie? Like shit like that sort of mentality of being able to like, I think this would be a fun idea. A musical about Mormons. Wouldn't that be fun?
And it is. And then, it's so good.
Yeah. So I really love... I always say Trey Parker because I love that mentality of like, this would be fun, and then trying to find a way to do it.
Yeah. That's a great answer. The next question is, what's some weird kid stuff you used to do?
I love the phrasing of that, though. What's some weird kid stuff you used to do? I feel like if it was really contextual for who's asking that question as well, though. Like,
yeah. Like it's clearly my voice asking that question. Yeah, creepy older man. Hey, what's some weird kid stuff you used to do?
What's some weird kid stuff you used to do? It's like, oh, don't talk to that man anymore.
No.
Well, kids are kind of cruel. So I will tell you something that we did that was kind of a bit cruel. It was like, so you know how like, I feel like this happens with girls a lot, which I don't mean to stereotype based on gender, but like you get like a little trio of 3 friends that are like super tight, like a really close, like in primary school, you have your like 2 best friends, right? So my little trio, we are all still really close and we're all still best friends. Mm-hmm. So I don't want you to think that the story I'm about to tell you means that she still hates us, because we're all still really close friends. So I'm trying to preempt this story with like, you know, it's mild bullying, but it turned out okay in the end.
As long as you're aware, and you know, most
but it's that dumb.
Most kids that do even mild bullying, I feel like, just walk away and then never think about it again. So
yeah, and you know, I copped mild bullying in response, not to this event, but in a karmic way. The universe was like, hey, what you did to your friend Alex was not the coolest, so here's a little bit of embarrassment for you to make you feel horrible. Basically, a weird thing that we did is that 2 of us out of that little trio of friends, for some reason we like ganged up against the other person. I don't know why, or like if there was a TV show or something that spurred this on, because you know, like when you're a kid, you kind of get like, you like watch something and you're like, I can do that, and you start doing it. Like, here's another weird thing I did when Harriet the Spy was kind of a cool thing, which was a book that I read when I was a kid. Like then I was like, I'm gonna be a spy, and I would like sit in my bedroom window watching people walk by and take notes on like things happening in my neighborhood, just as like I'm a spy keeping an eye on the ground. So that's a weird thing. So anyway, my mild bullying was I'm not sure if we watched something that made us do this, but two of us decided that the other one was a witch, and so we started like writing notes and making up stories about how she was a witch, like, and obviously made up bullshit, but we had this little notebook of like horrible made up stories about our third friend being like, one time I went up to her bedroom and she wasn't expecting me to be there, so she turned around and her eyes were purple and things like that. Like, absolutely slanderous, libelous, like total libel. They're written down in a notebook somewhere. And this went on for like a few weeks, I think, where we like, the two of us were like, because we lived on the same street, so we'd like get together and make up these horrible stories and all this sort of stuff. And eventually I think it just cooled off. But I do think that, like, as teens or, like, much later on, she found the notebook, or my friend had the notebook and showed it to her or something. So I do think there was, like, a little bit of fallout for it because it was pretty hurtful. And we weren't doing it to her face, but behind her back we were being like, she's a witch. I'm sure her cat is a familiar.
Oh my God.
To go back to the start of the story, we're all still really close. We're still very good friends. So if we were trying to get rid of her, it didn't work.
No. And you know why? You can't get rid of her because she is a witch and she is immortal.
She cast a spell on us.
The last question is, do you think aliens are real?
Space is so massive and unknown that I find it crazy to think that they couldn't be out there. But then at the same time, I've learnt a lot in the past couple of years. There's a great podcast that's called The End of the World.
Ooh.
And they talk about the great filter. I keep saying great, but there's like this theory called the great filter, where it's like, if there is intelligent life out in space, why haven't they contacted us yet? Is it because there's a reason, like there's something that happens that makes it hard for intelligent life to get to that next stage? Like is there some sort of filter that weeds out intelligent life before they can get to like interstellar travel? Or are the circumstances of Earth so extraordinary that we are the only intelligent life? Or are we headed towards that great filter and we're about to get filtered out and never make it to interstellar travel? Which, that's the scary look at it.
Yeah, and like just in terms of global warming and everything, that seems the most possible.
Yeah, for sure. Or that just like, is it, like intelligent civilizations eventually get to a self-destructive point? Like, whether it's war or climate change or, like anything like that, or, because this is not what they talk about in the podcast at all that I listen to about the Great Filter. I feel that the more intelligent and educated, well, intelligent isn't the right word. The more educated you are, the less likely you are to have children, or like to have a lot of children. Maybe that is unfair to say, but I feel like you sort of think about the consequences of having children a bit more, so you're less likely to have 10 kids. You might just have 1 or 2, or things like that. That maybe the more advanced a population becomes, the amount of children being born like plummets to a point where it doesn't happen anymore. I don't know. Do we die out? I answered that question maybe a bit too big.
It's fine. I'm just melting. It's fine. No, that's
Don't
a very
think about
good
it.
point. That's
Look, yeah. I
want to
think
listen to this podcast.
it's really good. So it's called The End of the World with Josh Clark.
Okay, so that's all the questions. So now, Jenny, it's your turn to take the stage here, the It's not a real stage. It's just that you're going to take over.
Okay. Well, how about this? You've asked me a lot of questions. I'm going to start out by asking you some questions.
Okay.
Let me ask you this. What were you doing on November 13th in the year of our Lord 2020? So this year. Earlier. Last month.
I can tell you.
Ooh.
By looking at my Instagram archives.
Technically November 14th in Australia.
Okay. I can tell you exactly what I did.
Uh-huh.
I saw friends for the first time. Actually, some improv friends.
Lovely.
At Carlton Gardens here in Melbourne, and I dropped my phone in the public toilet.
Wait, did you drop it into the toilet or?
It was in my back pocket, and I sat down and it fell into the toilet.
Oh no.
And I had to, for my first outing amidst COVID, put my hand inside a public toilet and get my phone out. And luckily, you know, one positive of COVID, I had plenty of hand sanitizer on me, so...
That's true. That's what we're going to
go
into.
That's what I
this
was
future
doing.
with. That, honestly, that's amazing that is the answer. Okay, but now I want you to cast your mind back further. And I want to ask you, what were you doing on November 15th, 2019?
Such a helpful tool that I can do this. Okay, November 15th. I went out with our mutual friend Molly Daniels in LA to the Satellite, which was like a bar and club. And I think it was probably like a Ariana Grande themed thing.
Mm-hmm. Also, let's just take a brief moment to appreciate how much your life has changed in 1 year.
Truly, yes.
Yeah.
And
But
weirdly, I saw Molly on both of those occasions.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like you probably saw Molly at Carlton Gardens, right?
Yeah.
How about that? So a whole year has changed. You were both in LA a year ago, and now you're both in Melbourne, and you dropped your phone into a public toilet. So my next question for you. What if I asked you to do a collaboration with me? Okay,
Yes.
So we're going to work together. We're going to make a YouTube channel where we're going to upload a video every day for 1 year.
Okay.
But here's the catch. Once that 1 year is up, we're going to delete the whole channel and all of the content on it entirely.
Okay. I'll do it. But what is the purpose?
Well, let me introduce you to the world of Unus Annus, which is a YouTube channel that existed for 1 year only. It was created on midnight of November 13th, so like the day of the 14th, and then it got deleted at midnight on November 15th this year, last month. All of it totally deleted, all of it gone. A year's worth of videos, 367 videos or something if you include all the little extra things, deleted in one moment.
What? Okay, I'm very intrigued. I knew no matter what it was that you would be talking about, that it would be something excellent and bizarre. So I'm very excited. But okay, so let's start from the beginning. How did you find out about this channel?
So there are two video gaming creators on YouTube. One called Markiplier, who has he's got something crazy like 25 million or 27 million subscribers, something immense like that. And he's been doing YouTube for a long time. And this other guy, Crank Gameplays, who I think started out with only 700. This is still a big number, so get ready. Still has 700,000 subscribers or whatever on YouTube.
But compared to 25 million.
Yeah, exactly. But even now, because I think I checked the other day that he has 1.9 million subscribers now. So after Unus Annus, he's actually cracked the million subscriber number. But still, yes, 25 million subscribers is a massive amount. So these two video game YouTubers teamed up together to make a channel together. And last year, on, November 13th, 14th, depending on what time zone you're in, they uploaded a video which was like only, 2 minutes long or whatever. They had like a swirling black and white spiral behind them. Crank Gameplays, also known as Ethan, was dressed all in a nice black suit, and Markiplier, or Mark, was dressed in a white suit. So they were standing in front of this black and white spiral, very hypnotic, talking in low tones and being like, hello there, da, da, da. So that was their intro video, and the video was basically, what would you do if you knew you only had 1 year to live? We're going to upload a video for every day of the next year, and then we're going to delete the whole channel, and the only thing you'll have left is your memories of the channel. And the merch, if you buy merch in time.
Of course.
And so also they were selling merch, but then the merch stopped once they deleted the channel too. So that was the opening video, where they also introduced their catchphrase, which is Memento Mori, which, if you're a Latin scholar, means remember death or remember that you will die. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of like a loose theme throughout the whole show as well. So Unus Annus in Latin means 1 year. So they were, from the start, they were like, we're going to delete this channel in 1 year's time. Mm-hmm. So, how did I enter into this crazy world of Unus Annus? Well, I actually saw that video last year in 2019 when it went up. But not because I was a massive fan of Markiplier and Crank Gameplays. I saw it because my job sort of requires me to know a little bit about what's happening in the social space and on YouTube and stuff like that. So I get like, this is a hot tip for anybody that doesn't work in an office. The way that thought leaders know what they're talking about is because they get newsletters every day that tells them fun facts that they need to know about what's happening in the world. So I get like YouTube newsletters. So on one of those newsletters, there was this thing about this channel being announced. So I went and watched the video, and I was like, ooh, this is a kind of cool aesthetic. I watched one of their proper videos, so not the like announcement video, just one of their daily uploads. Mm-hmm. So I watched just one of their daily uploads, and it was like too much for me. And what it was these two guys, one of whom I was sort of familiar with, which is Markiplier, and the other one I was not familiar with at all. And they were in their bathroom with a tub, with a bath, and like pouring salt, like masses of salt crystals into the bath, and then also like covering themselves up with like a sheet and stuff like this to make their own sensory deprivation tank. And I was just like, I don't get it. Like, it's too much for me. This is too chaotic. There's too much sort of happening that I was a serious adult back then. It didn't enter into my brain in the way that it was meant to. Yeah. So I was like, well, this is a fun idea, but I'm never going to look at this ever again. And I'm going to move on with my life and never think about Unus Annus at all ever again. Good day, sir. Well done. Fun idea. So long now. Cut to. Maybe I should have done my research. Maybe August of this year. August, September, probably. I, at my work, was looking up various video game things. So I am an adult. I was doing my adult work, my day job. I was looking at video game videos on YouTube, which I know sounds like not an adult work thing to do, but I promise it was. And I ended up on Markiplier's channel because he is one of the top video gamer YouTubers. And how's this as well, just as a side note, these two guys were making enough videos to have a daily upload on this Unus Annus channel for a year, but still maintained their own channels on the side.
That's
crazy. I know, yeah, because you could relate to this, that like the amount of work it takes to just output stuff.
Well, just to think of ideas would be the first hurdle that I don't understand how they would overcome. Do you think they had to plan it ahead and literally 365 ideas? Like, how did they do this?
They actually sort of revisited some of their unmade ideas at the end. They obviously had like brainstorm sessions, but also there were clearly some episodes where, you know, they just had to do something and it was like just a chaos vlog basically. So I feel like they didn't plan out the full year, but there are so many layers to this onion that I'm still not even yet to tell you about.
Okay.
But anyway, so cut to like August, September, right? And I'm looking up video game YouTube things. I end up on Markiplier's channel and I watch a video of his and I have enjoyed it because I've watched enough of it for YouTube to go like, hey, perhaps you'd like to take a look at this Unus Annus thing over here. And I, you know, thought back to many months ago when I'd seen that initial one and I was like, oh yeah, maybe I do want to watch an episode of this. This sounds like a fun, because also the titles, you know, they had like sort of fun activities that they were doing in some of the vlogs. So I click on one, I watch it, I enjoy it, I watch another one. I realize that, you know, soon this channel is going to be deleted. Maybe I kind of want to watch all these videos before they're all deleted. And then I watch more. And then I start to become friends with Mark and Ethan, and I like them as people, and I want to check in on them. And well, hey, they upload a video every day, and so when I wake up in the morning, there's a new video from Mark and Ethan there waiting for me. So I better watch today's Unus Annus video, see what they're up to. And oh boy, well, I'm sure I'm getting addicted to this, and it's all I can think about, and all I want to do is watch Unus Annus videos in my spare time. And oh geez, there's now only a month or so to go, and I better watch as many as I can to see what I can get through. And that's how I got totally addicted to a channel of dumb YouTube challenge videos. It was...
Yes.
I can't even tell you, like, how inane most of the content is. Like, the great thing was that they made comedy out of everything. Like, which I think for people in our profession is something that's very inspiring, because you go, like, it's possible. You can make comedy out of everything. We could film a dumb video, you and I making a sensory deprivation tank in our house, and we'd still be able to make something fun out of it. The other thing that was weird about this channel is that obviously it happened in 2020. So they started out doing just like, you know, things together, and they would go out and do things. And I think there was a period of time where they were doing like Airbnb experiences. So they like would go on a drum date together, or they'd do a salsa dancing class together, or, you know, like fun things like that, like, which honestly would love to do.
Yeah, that all sounds great.
I would have so much fun doing that. But then of course COVID hit, and there was like a distinct point where they just had to do episodes which were like what you and I are doing now, like on a Zoom call with each other. And so we're doing like internet based things, like trying to find Atlantis, things like that. But they, you know, they're just like, it's just like dumb YouTube stuff that like there's no real purpose to it. It's just kind of fun content. They would sometimes talk about the like Memento Mori. They would always say Memento Mori, and actually this is an important point that I probably should have said earlier. Every episode began and ended with a ticking clock that counted down how many days were left.
Whoa.
So if you were watching at the start of the year, you'd have like 362. It'd be like tick, tick. I feel like I could do the clock better, but I'm not going to. So here we are. But it also chanted Unus Annus, Unus, as it ticked down. But then, yeah, so as we were getting closer to the end, that ticking clock would start, like suddenly it became 10 days until it's finished, or 8 days until it's finished, which was crazy, but really fun. So it was very like, you know, classic just YouTube challenge fun stuff. And then at some point I started going on the Reddit where there was a bunch of memes and all that fun stuff. But then I realized that there was this subculture of the Unus Annus world, the Unus Annus community. There was a subculture of people that were finding codes and hidden messages in the videos that had been there for like months.
What?
Yes.
This is like my dream. This is my dream. I'm like an
It's
escape
so-
room junkie. This sounds so fun.
That was one of their episodes. They did an escape
Of
room.
course they did.
But also, the best part is that, like, later on, they each made, like, an escape room kind of thing for the other person. And those were also really just, like, they were often a lot of references to previous videos that they did, or in-jokes, or, like, things that the community had, like, picked up on that they loved.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really, like, just, like, this nice friendship was... where, like, you're just, like, these two guys that... They're friends, they're like having fun together, they're playing games. How fun is this? This is real fun. The thing that was fascinating is that the codes had things like, I'm trapped in the machine, gotta stop the clock, like all this sort of stuff, like this kind of language that was like, created this lore or this idea that there was a character or something trapped in the Unus Annus world. And eventually... there's a channel on YouTube called Game Theory that does, like, you know, game and movie theories. Yeah. And he uploaded a video about Unus Annus being like, this is my theory of what all those codes mean. When I say there are codes, you and I would watch the video and not see them. Mm-hmm. These are people who are, like, going through the flash frames step by step and then, like, changing the contrast and the brightness so that they can see sheet music that was, you know, black on grey. So, like, we wouldn't notice it unless you, like...
Imagine if they went to all the effort to put all this stuff in and then no one noticed it.
I know. But I sort of love that as well.
Yeah.
Like, a part of me is like, how cool would that be? Because imagine in 5 years, somebody who, like, the person who was responsible for doing those codes to just be like, oh yeah, I worked on Unus Annus back in the day. Put a bunch of codes in there. Nobody saw them. But here's the thing, the channel's deleted.
So no one can see it. Oh my god.
So it's really hard to, like, go back and find... Well, I say it's really hard. There are people that are re-uploading it, but they're trying to, like, copyright strike them and take it down anytime it's re-uploaded. Imagine that 5 years on, somebody's like, yeah, I put codes in Unus Annus. Nobody noticed it, and now you'll never find them, and you cannot confirm or deny if I did that at all. So eventually got to this point where, yeah, Game Theory made this video that was, like, a theory conspiracy about, like, what the codes mean and all this sort of stuff. Game Theory's theory was that this was, like, a simulation, potentially, that Mark and Ethan have been stuck in this Unus Annus thing where they have to, like, live out these scenarios or something like that, like a YouTube scenario or whatever, because there are also episodes where one of them dies. There's an episode called How to Start a Fire, and it was like, just that. They had twigs and flint, and they were trying to do the, like, camp version of starting a fire. And there's a point in that episode where they start talking about, like, maybe we need to commit sins to be able to start this fire. There's some way that they got there. They also, by the way, do improv, I think. So they just love riffing on each other. They somehow got to this point of, like, maybe I need to commit a sin to get this fire to start. And then when they're talking about that, one guy's just like, da-da-da, yeah. And then the other guy pulls out a knife and he's, like, looking at the knife. So I should say their names. Mark is looking at the knife, looking to Ethan, looking at the knife, looking to Ethan, while they're talking about, do I need to commit a sin to get this fire to start? And as that's happening, there's a window beside him. And Ethan, dressed in a suit, so this is him in his Unus character, walks up to the window. So we've got a wide shot with the two of them there, and then he walks up to the window and, like, looks in on the scene, and then kind of looks to the camera as well, looks in on the scene of Mark about to kill Ethan, looks up to the camera, and then, like, shakes his head and walks off. So, I mean, can you imagine you were just watching this? I feel like I wish I had gotten this experience as you were meant to get it, because I came in after that video. Yeah. But imagine you have just been watching this crazy, fun, chaotic YouTube channel where they just do dumb challenges like eat as much gum as they can, and then you get to this camp episode and you see that.
That would have blown people's brains away.
I wish it's one of those things where I'm like, I'm super grateful that I experienced Unus Annus at all. Like, it's one of those weird things where I'm like, I'm just happy I was alive for it and a part of this. I was here for it.
Mm-hmm.
I wish that I had gotten into it before that episode because, it's so cool. It's just cool.
It's so cool. Did you end up watching that episode?
Yes, I did watch that episode, but I had already sort of known that there were some of those little things. They had this theme of Memento Mori that kind of meant that they had a few like sort of dark, morbid sort of, they were kind of like throwaway gags, but every now and again they would sort of like bring up, remember that you're gonna die one day. They had one episode where they went coffin shopping, which was really fun. They were always going to delete it on Friday the 13th, right? So there was already kind of like a spooky thing. I feel like the codes got more and more prevalent in the lead up to Halloween. They were doing all these Halloween themed videos. Like they did like fun things like costume thing. They also did like spooky haunted mansion. They also did like looking for ghosts and stuff like that in a haunted house in LA somewhere. But I think the codes kind of got a bit more prevalent, and so it made the community, especially once that game theory video came out, people on Reddit were like there was a Discord that was just about lore. There was a Discord where they were only like cracking codes and like their theories about what could possibly this all mean. So leading up to Halloween, so on October 30th, they did an episode, and this was at the point where I was watching them daily, by the way. So I was like every day, like going on YouTube and being like, gonna watch this, and maybe I'll just check out the Reddit to see what they're talking about. On October 30th, they did an escape room one where Ethan did it for Mark, and it was in a haunted mansion, or supposedly haunted, like abandoned house somewhere in LA. And it was a really super fun episode, really funny. He'd done all these really crazy, cracked, like weird challenges for him to do that were all based on previous episodes that they'd done together, and things like that. And and then it ends, and the ending of it is like Ethan running forward to him in the darkness, and like a sort of a jump scare right at the end. So jump scare, and then it goes to the ticking clock, right? Unus Annus countdown happening. The next day, Halloween, October 31st, the episode starts with the end of that episode, and it's like a shot from outside the house, and you see like them in the attic window with the lights, because they had torches and stuff, right? So you see them outside the house, you see them in the windows, and you hear them go like, ha 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 ha, oh, that was a good one, you guys did so well, that was so good, oh, that's gonna be a great episode. And then cut to Ethan in a bathroom, and he's like washing his face or whatever, like
still in the haunted house, or
he's still in the haunted house.
Okay,
so it's kind of like a crappy, like yucky looking, how bathrooms always look the worst, right? So especially in haunted houses. So he's in this like crappy bathroom, he's washing his, like, they've wrapped so that he's just refreshing himself, and then they've got these walkie-talkies, which is how they did the like escape room puzzle with each other, and the walkie-talkie starts talking in his voice. So Ethan's voice is talking to him, and it's basically saying like, time's up, clock's ticking. I wish I could remember exactly what they were saying, but it was like because that's the cool thing, is that there were a few episodes of this channel that were super cinematic, and this is one of them where it was like beautifully shot, very spooky, and like just played completely seriously, no comedy at all. And it cut between him and Mark walking through this haunted house, hearing their own voice on the walkie-talkies talking back to them, being like, you tried to extend it, but you can't, like, you can't stop the clock from ticking, like, it will happen, sort of thing. The end of that episode, again, this was only like maybe 2 minutes or 3 minutes long. Remember how I said they went coffin shopping in one episode, which was a comedy episode, by the way? They'd actually bought a coffin at the end of that coffin shopping one, which was like, because of the white-black spiral and the white-black design that they kind of had throughout the whole thing, the coffin was half white, half black on the inside and outside is how they got it designed. So anyway, the end of the Halloween episode, they're walking up and they come to the coffin, which we haven't seen at all the whole year. So they went coffin shopping in what, like, February? Nobody saw that coffin until October 31st. So they walk up to this coffin, they open the lid, they close the lid, and suddenly they're dressed in their black and white suits from their, like, characters. The Unus Annus characters.
I just got goosebumps.
It was so cool. I can't even tell you. So, because this was the part where I was like, I'm here every day. I'm watching this every day. It was literally, I was like, and then afterwards you're like, I gotta know what people are talking about. What are people talking about? What's happening? Like, what does this mean? Is this part of the simulation thing? And has Unus and Annus taken over Mark and Ethan? What's happening? Because also, oh my god, now I'm just getting excited about it. They also, on that day when that video came out, they changed their Twitter profile pictures to be pictures of them as Unus and Annus in their suits. So they changed their profile pictures on Twitter, and they also changed their names to be Unus and Annus. So not Markiplier and Crank Gameplays, they changed them to be Unus and Annus. So everyone was like, what does this mean? Oh my god, like, what is happening? All this sort of stuff. After that point, they started doing episodes that I could only describe as being morning episodes. So, as in, like, they were reliving... They did things like, they, like, being brutally honest with each other, like, things that they'd learnt over the year, and they recreated every one of their episodes based off of the title, which was just, like, a 2-second, like, gag from each episode. They kept kind of making fun of the people who were, like, the law. The people on Discord being like, what does this code mean? They were like, it doesn't mean anything. It's the law. No, it doesn't. And so they were taking the piss out of it. The last show of Unus Annus was a 12-hour live stream.
What?
So they started it at noon. So it was Friday the 13th. Because that was, like, what they were aiming for, was, like, the spooky end of Friday the 13th. At noon on Friday the 13th, they went until midnight live on YouTube. Whoa. And then they deleted the channel live on air, which is really cool. But I can expand on that in a second. Okay, first off, I would like to say that, yes, I did get up at 7 in the morning in Australia. I also had something to do at 7 in the morning, which was I was painting my vertical garden, which is now growing many herbs.
Oh, beautiful.
So I was up for a reason.
Yeah, and that's the type of activity where you can have something playing in the background.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was, like, perfectly timed. So I did have it on. They actually did this really lovely thing where, because they have a team of editors that would help them edit these videos, they got each one of those editors to make a highlight reel of their favorite moments from the videos that they edited. And then they had a video call with them on the live stream where they talked to them and, like, gave them their little moment in the sun, because obviously they were part of the reason why the channel worked. And what turned out was that one of the editors was the one that was sneaking codes into the videos. There was no lore. There was no hidden, like, backstory. It was just, like, a fun thing that he was doing.
After all that.
Yeah. I mean, this is that sort of thing. Like when I said, like, Trey Parker is a hero of mine. I was just so jazzed for these two guys who have been like, this is a fun idea. We're going to upload every day for a year, and then YouTube, we're just going to delete the whole fucking thing, right? Like, and we're going to put these, like, fun little details in, and we're going to change our Twitter pictures to be, like, it's so cool.
It's so specific.
And do you know what? Yeah, and what does it matter? Does it mean anything?
Does anything?
Well, Memento Mori. Just try and live your life the best you can. This community kind of arose around this channel, and it does have, like, cult-like elements to it. I mean, the chanting at every episode, I'm sure, adds to the cult imagery. Like, weirdly wholesome and lovely. Like, if you went to the Reddit, it was 80% of it was, like, fan art, or people being like, my mum knows that Unus Annus is my favorite YouTube channel, so she made an Unus Annus birthday party for me, where everything's black and white and, like, themed with, like, they had an hourglass that was, like, their logo. Mm-hmm. So it's like, it was beautiful. It was this weird sort of like, and it wasn't people putting fan art and stuff out. You can imagine on the internet, sometimes people are like, this is shit, you suck.
Yeah.
But it seemed like everyone was just so supportive of other people doing creative things based off of Unus Annus. And it actually reflected kind of the message of the show itself. Like they, this idea of like, live your life how you want to live it. Like, remember that you've got to do something, like, make it worthwhile for you. The episode where they like kind of recreated everything really quickly. At the end of that, they were like, you could take that list and you guys could make your own version of each one of those videos and it would be totally different. It would be totally yours because you made it, because you did it. And it was this, it was so like inspiring.
That's so sweet.
Yeah. For a show that's like catchphrase was Memento Mori, you're going to die. Remember that you're going to die. We're going to delete everything in 1 year. They had this really like weirdly uplifting community that like came out around it.
You've made me like fall in love with this thing that I'm never going to see.
And you can't see it. It's gone. Mark's girlfriend, Amy, was very heavily involved as well. She like was basically the producer. So it was actually like a whole crew of people, but it was the three of them that were like the ones that created it. But so for the last moment, they had their 12-hour live stream, which had a little TV behind them with the ticking clock ticking down how long they had left in the live stream. So the last moment, the three of them got behind the computer and deleted it at once. Cut to black. My live stream just went to black. There was nothing. And then if I refreshed the page, it started saying, this channel doesn't exist. And it was gone. Like that. I didn't even watch all the videos. I didn't see all of them. I know that there are some I missed.
Wow.
And you just have to be okay with that.
Yeah, just like life. Just like what you were saying before. There are things that we'll never know.
There's something beautiful about that. One more thing I want to add to you to just give you another little piece of the puzzle. When they deleted the channel, they had 4.58 million subscribers and 867 million views. And while they were on the live stream, at the end, when they deleted the live stream, there were 1,190,000 people watching when they deleted that live stream.
That's crazy.
I did write down some stats.
Oh my God. That's so special. I love this. There's just like no way to watch it.
I will say that they are like, there is like a bunch of people, because they did always say like, we don't want you to re-upload these videos. Mm-hmm. If you have made some art out of it. So if it's like parody clause, right? If it's transformative, you can have that up. That there are people that are re-uploading it. So if you really wanted to, but I strongly advise you do not.
No.
You can watch probably most of the episodes, but that's not the point.
No.
The
defeats
point
the
of
purpose.
it's not to keep it.
This has truly been one of my favorite topics. Because I'm like now like, Can you tell anyone listening to and or watching this where to find anything that you're doing? And do you have anything to plug right now?
Well, no, I guess the only thing I have to plug is the little things that I'm trying to make. So you can find me at Fiber Optic Duck. So that's the American spelling. So Fiber Optic Duck. I use that handle on Instagram and YouTube, which are probably the two places that I consistently upload things to. Very honestly inspired a little bit by Unus Annus and just the wholesome message of, hey, you have a fun idea, you should just bloody do it. I'm trying to do a fun idea I had many years ago called DVD unboxings.
Yes!
Where I take DVDs and I look at the special features on them.
It's so good. And anyone out there, if you want to see what I'm up to, I'm at Ashley Crap App on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. Yeah, so you can find me on everything there. Oh, and I'm streaming on Twitch a couple times a week, so you can find all that stuff in the description and everything. And Jenny, thank you so much for being here. I adore you. This was so much fun.
Thank you for having me. This is fun. I'm glad I didn't know what the questions were in advance.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you everyone for being here, and goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.